What's up, y'all? It's your boy Niner Faithful. How's everybody doing? Hope everyone is having a legendary week. We got our boy Josh in the green room waiting. We got Jason waiting in the green room. We're going to go ahead and get Josh's thoughts on the offseason. Obviously, the BA situation, especially considering what we've learned over the last 24 to 48 hours. Get his thoughts on camp and, of course, get an outlook for the season. Thank y'all for tuning in. Of course, as always, before we get started, we got some bills we got to pay. If I could hit the right there.
Today's episode is sponsored by Power Brand Systems. Need help getting new customers for your business? Let Power Brand Systems help you grow with their powerful tools. Visit powerbrandsystems.com/Niner Faithful Radio for more info. For the Faithful, by the Faithful, off-season sale is happening now. Save 20% on all For the Faithful, by the Faithful season 1 through 3 gear now through June 30th. Go ahead and visit NinerFaithfulRadio.com/shop to save. Follow us on social media at Niner Faithful Radio on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and TikTok, and at Niner Faithful R on X. If you like our content and would like to support the show, consider leaving us a tip in our tip jar at NinerFaithfulRadio.us/tip jar. Join our exclusive membership community where you get exclusive NFR content not available anywhere else. Join our exclusive chat, 20% off of all non-sale For the Faithful, by the Faithful gear, and much more. Visit portal.ninerfaithfulradio.us/login to join.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, faithful of all ages, let's get the show cracking.
Weiss has just set a Super Bowl record with 12 catches. He's in motion. Montana, touchdown, John Taylor.
Niner Faithful Radio, the show hosted for the faithful, by the faithful, brought to you by Power Brand Systems.
All right, Jason, Josh, what's cracking? How y'all doing?
Hello.
Jason, you're muted. All right.
It's all over, faithful.
Oh, God. It's always is something. Always is something. All right, just real quick, wanted to give a shout out to everybody watching on Instagram. We appreciate y'all. If you want your comments shown, please go to Facebook or YouTube or hi Instagram, because for some reason StreamYard and Instagram, something's going on and they don't let their comments be showing. Josh, how's your off season?
My off season's been great. Just been loving life. We've had great weather up here in the Pacific Northwest, and just been doing my thing.
It has been
Awesome.
kind of nice up here.
Bruh, it's so hot. So truthfully, really, I felt like we've gotten a break this year at camp. There hasn't been too many days of the, okay, shoot me, why the hell are we out here? Kind of days. If people question us not being the best fan base, we haven't, but today was, I ain't gonna lie, today was rough for your boy. It was hot. We've been getting a little bit of heat wave out here in the Bay. So we know that you're busy, Josh, obviously taking the vacay, so we don't want to take up too much of your time. Overall, starting with the aftermath of the Super Bowl, going on today, your overall thoughts of the Niners offseason.
Well, that's where it starts, doesn't it, with the aftermath of the Super Bowl. And I got to tell you, I really love how the 49ers have addressed this offseason. They drafted a lot of young guys that I think are going to play. Remember, the 49ers were the oldest team in the playoffs last year, and it really started to show. They got a couple of offensive linemen, an area where we know they need help. They got, Green and Mustafa to help with the secondary in the defensive backfield. And of course, probably the most consequential draft pick this season so far has got to be Ricky Pearsall, especially considering the Brandon Ayuk situation.
Yeah, no. Go
We'll
ahead,
get
Jason.
to that.
Yeah,
We'll get to
that.
There's a whole.
Oh yeah.
We could do a couple episodes of the whole BA
Yeah.
situation.
Everybody else is going like 10-hour streams talking nothing but BA stuff.
I mean, shit. And if we really want to get true at this point, the Trent Williams situation too.
Sure.
No, I agree with you. You know, I was impressed by the draft just because, you know, Jason and I don't know how you felt, but, you know, the first show after the Super Bowl review and everything like that, I looked at Jason and I said, okay, you know, for most of the season, we believed we have the best team in football, start to finish. You know, I remember after that Cry Girls game, looking at Jason and saying, besides beating ourselves in injuries, how does this football team lose, Jason? And lo and behold, beating ourselves and injuries were about the only thing that beat the Niners all last season. So our motto for this offseason has been, how do you improve the best roster in football? You raise the floor.
Yeah.
You know, the issue in the Super Bowl, the number defensively, offensively, you know, is a whole other subject, but defensively was the defense. See, I didn't blame the defense as much because I felt the defense had, at least the first half, one of the best games that they played in the Super Bowl. The defense played about the level, if not better than they did the whole season. Clearly, the issue with the Super Bowl was the offense didn't score 30 points like they had been doing most of the season. You know, so how do we address this? What was the issue on defense? Dre Greenlaw went down. You know, and the floor of this football team was too low, as we saw with Oren Burks, etc. So what I was impressed is the maturity of the players we got. You know, I believe everybody but Pooney, I believe, was a fifth-year senior. Was a fifth-year senior. You know, so you have the experience, the amount of games played, which both, of course, is experience as well as health. You know, your best ability is availability. And people who I felt like, from what I've seen at camp this year, you know, nobody's jumped out the screen like, oh, my God, we got to get them on the field right away. You know, everybody's had their ups and downs and everything. But what I like most about the draft class in particular is there are people that as the season goes on, I can see Malik Mustafa making his way on the field. Pooney might have to start for other reasons, but he was somebody I thought might work in as the
I told you he was going to start day one.
Yeah, no, he's looked like when he they haven't done one-on-ones too many days, at least while we've been out there. But the one thing I was really impressed is, I mean, when I say he's Stonewall Everett Anderson, I mean, I don't think that man moved an inch back. And that's something when I saw that, I kind of stood up and took notice. It was like, all right, you could block a man that big and you give no pushback at all. Fine, it was a one-on-one rep in August. I get it. But, I mean, that's impressive. What did you think and overall of the free agency signing, but particular Leonard Floyd?
Oh, I like it. Obviously, we need somebody to play opposite of Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa, one of the players that's having an outstanding camp so far. Mm-hmm. You know, looks like he's on pace to be Nick Bosa again, but he needs somebody on the other side that can help him out in that role. You know, maybe Devondre Campbell does a few things over on that side, but Leonard Floyd is more of your traditional, you know, pass rushing guy that you would put opposite of Nick Bosa. We'll have to see how it plays out on the field, of course, but I like the signing.
Yeah.
Do you like Campbell, the signing of Campbell?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I think he brings, you know, that veteran experience in an area of need, right? Especially considering we don't know when Dre Greenlaw is going to return. You know, he might not be ready for the start of the season. It would be more towards the end of the season that he would get him back. So, you know, those free agent signings. And also, don't forget, we took Bethune, you know, a linebacker in the very last pick, one of the very last picks of our draft late. Again, I would not be surprised to see these young guys finding their way onto the field.
Yeah, D. Winters is somebody, of course, we know Fred Warner said he had the best OTAs. He hasn't necessarily jumped out at me as somebody like, okay, like Dre who, you know, but he's somebody that really honestly, we say it all the time on the show is the D-line gets so much credit, you know, Chris Kosaric and everything like that. But if you put a gun to my head and honestly said the best position coach on the Niners, I think it's Johnny Holland. When you consider the D-line should eat, right? That's where we put our resources in. We all know this. It was actually a shock that we didn't take a D lineman, you know, early in this draft. What's up, Christine? How you doing? So I think what Johnny Holland's been able to do with a third rounder in Fred Warner, a fifth rounder in Dre Greenlaw, and then what you sprinkle in a couple undrafted free agents like Aziz and DFF and everything. I honestly think Johnny Holland's one of the very few coaches we can afford to lose. I don't think he nearly gets enough credit for what he's been able to do, to do with this linebacking core. Okay, so we get into, obviously we're going through the offseason, you know, we got the BA situation, which, you know, we'll save the best for last. What did you think about the CMC extension?
Well, I mean, CMC picked the third out of the NFL's top 100. Yeah. I mean, he's one of the best players in football, period. Love the extension. You know, his footwork is absolutely incredible. You know, he has incredible dance moves. I don't know if you guys saw that little piece, but you know, it's easy to see where his footwork comes from. He has the speed, he has the agility, the balance. You know, how many times have we seen him kind of get knocked back and then just do a spin move is as natural as anything else and then go the distance. You know, he's got the total package. And we need to keep that guy around for a long time.
You know, I've always felt, we'll get we've got Jason thoughts. I personally, what I felt about CMC is I think he's slowly became the focal point of the offense. When you think about the Niners, you know, for at least the beginning of the Shanahan era, it's also, you know, defense. I was there. I'm a season ticket holder now. I was there the Arizona game. I'm the one that started the MVP chant. I remember just looking at CMC during that game, and I said, bruh, like, I haven't seen this since Jerry. Like, a man who legitly, anytime he touches the football, can take it to the distance. I have not seen that since number 80, you know, Grace Candlestick Park. I agree with you. I think this is how I've always looked at contracts is, you know, obviously CMC calf strain, you know, we don't know what the future holds. Running back, you know what, I believe the contract will be over his 30-year, 32 season. Little long in the tooth for a running back, but this is how I've always felt when it comes to extending veterans is who you're going to get to replace him.
Yeah.
You know, I've had conversations with people who think Kyle should have been fired after the Super Bowl in 2019. Cool. I'll listen to an argument why anybody should be fired, why we should cut players, said trade player, whatever. My ultimate question is, who are you going to bring him to replace him? Because you can't just have somebody walk in off the streets and coach this football team. I mean, the three of us should have learned that, i.e. Chip Kelly, Jim Tom Sula. So
yeah, that's a great point. You know, you mentioned something that I didn't about CMC, which was catching passes out of the backfield. But I'll mention one more thing. You know, his pass protection. When they leave him in to help pick up the blitz, CMC is capable of going all the way across the formation and identifying the blitzer, something we haven't seen out of running backs waiting behind him, like, for example, Jordan Mason. So when you talk about who are we going to get to replace him, well, there you go, right there. It just shows you how valuable CMC is.
Yeah. Well, and yes, to your point earlier about what he does well, what doesn't he do well? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like when you talk about the complete back, there's nothing that the guy does to where if he's not elite, it's super good. You know what I mean? It's just like everything he does. Hell, we've even seen the man throw touchdown passes. So, again, there's literally nothing he does or he can't do.
Ayuk right, they
You mean
motion
like that?
McCaffrey, backwards pass to McCaffrey, and he's going to throw downfield wide open.
Yep.
Brandon Ayuk, touchdown! San Francisco!
So I'm with y'all. I mean, I want to see CMC at age 32. Show me that, because something tells me, look, I don't think he'll quite be what he is at 24 when he's 32, and all the miles and all that and everything like that. But I wanted to ask you a question. I asked Jason this last year, and it was one of our questions before the season, on our season review show. Do you think CMC gets 1,000 and 1,000?
Ooh, that's a great question. He's certainly capable of it because of all the things we talked about before. Yeah, he's got the ability to do it on the ground and through the air. So it's definitely a possibility.
See, the reason I brought that up is because ultimately my answer was no. And the reason I said no is because I don't want CMC to get 1,000. I don't want him to get the touches necessary to get 1,000 and 1,000. And that was kind of my attitude as like I said, our big arching question after the Super Bowl was, how do we improve this football team? I think one of the ways we could improve the floor of this football team is health. It is wearing down. One of my, and we'll get your thoughts on this as we get towards the overall view of the season, is this football team's played 20 games the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And with, like you said, the oldest team in the playoffs, when does that show up? Is that starting to, is that starting to show up here in camp when you got, Elijah Mitchell with the hamstring? You've got CMC with the calf strain. Lord knows what the hell Trent's doing. That is, and Kyle alluded to it, and Kyle, I'll give him some credit. He goes, look, we could call 6 passes in a row for BA, but if it's covered and CMC gets, the ball down on the check down, that's a touch that you didn't account for him for that he gets. So I understand the balance of, I kind of felt in that Arizona game, looking back to where he was in the Super Bowl, where he was clearly compromised. He was not 100%. Is that 4th touchdown against Arizona, was it worth it, to be able to scream MVP and all that, when you look down to the road to, late January, early February? As we move on, we've before we get to BA, I want to get your idea of Trent, because this is, regardless of what the Niners have told us publicly, I'm famous for on this show saying, don't listen to what Kyle says, don't listen to what we say, listen to what Kyle shows you. I don't think the Niners prepared for this. I think this snuck up on the Niners. I don't think they expected Trent to hold out.
It very well could be. I think you're quite right to be, aware of coach speak. All the coaches have their little ways of saying things without saying them and not saying the things that we all want to, hear about. But in terms of
Kyle's
Trent,
a master at it.
He's the master at it. And Trent's being pretty vague on his end, too, saying he wants to rework his contract. We don't really know what that means. I have a sneaking suspicion that at his age, Trent might just be wanting to take training camp off and might come in for sort of a token rework of his contract in the training camp. He's earned it. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the case. I don't know if that's the situation, but to me, having seen these kinds of holdouts before, just look at the difference in how his holdout is being talked about versus how Ayuk's holdout is being, or hold in, I should say, is being talked about. It just seems to be, again, just one man's opinion here, but my sneaking suspicion is he's just taking training camp off and he'll be ready to go for the start of the season.
Speaking of holding in, do you like that now that that's become a thing in the NFL versus the old school? It was just always you held out. Now you show up to camp and you just don't do anything.
Well, if you don't
problem.
if you don't report to camp, they can fine you, right? And when you get your new deal, the teams always waive those fines, so you can say, well, it doesn't matter either way, but it is a little bit of extra leverage the team has over you. And, when you're in negotiations, any bit of leverage you have is already helpful. And in Ayuk's situation, that he's under contract until next year. And then the following year, they can franchise him. So the Niners have quite a bit of leverage over him. It sort of makes sense for him to at least report to camp.
Give some sort. Do you think that was his way of giving some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? A bridge for that kind of stuff. Like I'll at least show up.
That's right. And, he's been really friendly with Kyle and John, making sure to say hello to them every day. And, it's letting everybody know, look, this is business. It's not personal.
Yeah. Speaking of like me and media, who was in the chat with me and him do our show on Thursday, we were talking about I would have loved to see BA come out today. Because remember, last week we had Huggate with how he hugged Kyle and all that kind of, and all that. I would have loved to have how everybody would have broken it down today after everything that happened over last night and everything. How did he walk out there? Did he hug him the right way? Did he hug him tightly? Was it just a quick pat in the back? I would have loved to see how, Grant Cohn, Dave Lombardi, and all those guys would have broken it down. This is how he hugged.
Yeah, Jason and I were so appreciative of the lack of quarterback drama. This year
we are making up for it though.
And I fucking BA, bro. Of course you had to. We were gonna have a relaxing, training camp. I was just gonna sit back there, with my fisherman hat, and kick my feet up, and watch my football team get better and better. And nope, not gonna happen. So we've buried the lead enough. The BA situation. I'm gonna give my thoughts, and then we'll let Jason and Josh give his thoughts over the last 24 hours. I want to start off by asking your gentlemen, this question. Joe Montana, Ronnie Lott, Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott, Jerry Rice, Joe Montana. The three players on the Niners Mount Rushmore, correct? I think we could all agree, Joe, Jerry, Ronnie.
All right.
And then Steve, yeah, you could argue Steve, Bill, whether you put Bill or Steve there, 4 players, 3 players, a coach. The one thing, at least the 3 that we can guarantee would be on there. You want to know the one thing they all had in common? They finished their careers in another uniform.
Yeah.
So that my attitude is I'll take it to BA or I'm Debo. I love me some Debo. Nobody screams tuck your chain more than me during a Niner game. I remember when he got hurt in 22. I literally remember being on the floor crying because I thought his season was done. One of the two most heartbreaking, just seeing a player things I've ever seen as a Niner fan was Patrick Willis after Super Bowl 47. And seeing him cry walking off the field. That absolutely gutted my soul. And seeing Debo on the bench with Odell Beckham talking to him after the NFC Championship game in LA. 2 most heartbreaking things I've seen as a faithful, from a player reaction. I'll never forget Debo carrying this football team through the season in 21. But I said the same thing when Debo demanded his trade. You don't want to be here, brother. I'll pack your bags for you. This team let Jerry Rice walk. This team traded Joe Montana. I mean, think about that sentence. The Niners traded Joe Montana. Okay, so I've watched this team get rid of players that will never, their place in the franchise is etched in history for eternity. I personally find it very hard to believe. Like I know a lot of people have been talking about Juwan Jennings, one of the most impressive players to camp. It seems like I'm writing 15 down on my notes every single day, at least multiple times a day. Personally, and y'all can give y'all thoughts on this, I think he's an elite third receiver. I think, honestly, a legit elite third receiver. I have questions about him being a second receiver, especially if we're going to move him out of the slot. Do y'all believe that this team is the same caliber of Super Bowl contender without BA?
You want to handle that, Jason?
Sure.
Tough one.
I'm going to. I don't think it's a tough one. I still think yes. I do think that say that things will definitely change. If you were going to put Jennings obviously over to that number 1 receiver /1, depending on what you want to call Debo, as a weapon or a receiver kind of thing, I think then that's when you slide in some of these younger guys, especially someone, maybe not even the younger guys. Why not Conley? Conley's been having an amazing camp. Seems to have a great repertoire going with Purdy so far. So while I do still think that, we would still be Super Bowl contenders, probably still the number one. I don't see anybody, even without BA, I don't see anybody in the NFC eclipsing us as the best team in the NFC. So I don't see that changing. I just think that, Kyle would probably just change the offense a little bit. Take some of those BA routes, and change them a little bit to where what would fit Juwan Jennings a little bit better. Probably work in some more, like I said, a little bit more of Conley, obviously. We've got two young, great receivers in Pearsall and media's personal favorite guy of all time, Jacob Cowley. Hell, with the way things are going in this, Ronnie Bell is, from what I understand, is low-key having an amazing camp. Even Danny Gray seems to be getting some love from quite a few people in his camp. So it goes back to the whole thing to where, do we want CMC to get that 1,000? Yeah. And while like I said, last year, I thought he would because of the amount of load he was going to carry. But this year, if we, say without BA, why not just open it up even more? Kyle would love to open up this offense. We've got 9,000 receivers in our wide receiver room right now. Why not? You want to take some of that load off of CMC? Yes, we got Jordan Mason and Elijah as a 2B and 2A, but why not just open it up and let Brock see what he can do with his newfound 40 pounds of muscle that he put on in the offseason?
Josh?
Yeah. I think that's really well said. You hit the nail on the head. They're absolutely contenders, right? Even if we consider some of the other top teams in the NFC, the Packers and the Cowboys, I still really like the Niners to at least be there in the end for sure. Without Brandon Ayuk, I'm really conflicted on this because Ayuk is just such an outstanding route runner. I mean, his routes are just textbook every single time. He can make contested catches, great hands. Doesn't have the separation with the man-to-man coverage, which is a big factor in the Super Bowl and why the 49ers went after some of these other players in the draft. But you're right. Clearly, Kyle and John feel that they have enough going in their wide receiver room as it is. We still have Juwan Jennings. Ronnie Bell, like you said, having a strong camp. Which you would think Bell would be a guy on the bubble. So that's a big factor, clearly getting them comfortable enough to say, hey, maybe we will explore a trade with some of these other teams. It was reported that they have a framework in place with the Patriots and the Browns. And, of course, Mayoko saying just a few hours ago he believes, in his opinion, that the Steelers would be the team that Ayuk would want to go to the most. So we'll see if they can get a deal done there. I think a huge part of this is what the 49ers get in return, obviously.
Just real quick, because we got to play, because we have somebody in the chat. We have Mr. McNiner in here. Where'd you put it?
I got it.
Sorry, ass man. So long.
Y'all know we got to play it every time McNiner gets in the chat.
Yeah, we gotta give it a shout out. Rick, appreciate you. I see you, baby. I've been seeing y'all comments. I just didn't want to interrupt our guest. So thank y'all for showing up. See, who, honestly, I said it today. I wrote his number down on my notes. I gave a circle and I put a star next to it to specifically say I wanted to speak to this at some length. Who's really impressed me, and mind you, mostly second team reps, but who's really impressed me this camp is Trent Taylor. And I know that you and I, Jason, have discussed that Trent Taylor would be the ideal Conley of last year, the player we call up each week from the practice squad and everything like that. But as we stand back here and we have to, as we stand right now, we at least have to entertain, let's see, we have to at least entertain the idea that BA will not be on the Niners next time we're on air. Shit, maybe even by Friday, that BA might not be on the Niners. He is somebody that I circle. We know he could be productive in this offense. We know that. And I'm sorry, you're productive with Jimmy. You damn sure.
Right. Remember how many medicine balls, diving balls that man catch over those 2 years. imagine what he could do with Purdy hitting him actually in stride.
We know this. Trent Taylor did not get re-signed on the Niners because of his injuries. Well, how do you think he got those injuries?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, the man, it's funny how, and I try to be, I think you and I, Jason, I think we try to strike the perfect balance of being somewhat, I won't say biased because we're very biased. You know, we're Niner fans, of not ever hiding the fact that we're faithful. Like we will never deny that. We're not media, totally unbiased, you know, professionals here. But of the balance of criticizing the team when necessary and things like that. One of the things that analyst, there you go, fanalist. So as I've stepped back and, you know, removed my Jimmy is King, you know, glasses and everything like that.
I'm so glad that damn song is gone.
And, you know, as I remove my glasses is that, man, Devontae Adams at some point last season really legitly thought about quitting the sport of football. Like Devontae Adams legitly thought about quitting football because of Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm just I haven't seen anything from Ricky Pearsall. Like, has he made the spectacular catches that we, you know, like the highlight from, I believe it was East Carolina. He caught that and got popped too, which I think was honestly probably the most impressive part of that highlight. Have I seen him make those catches? Yes. Do I think he's Dante Pettis 2.0? No. I don't. He's going to get open. He's going to catch what you throw him. The thing that concerns me is, well, when does the Kyle doghouse come? Because I think one of the things that's not being talked about is, you know, it's no secret. Kyle and Debo are boys. You know, I don't know if y'all knew this, but, you know, John Lynch came into the locker room halftime of the NFC Championship last year. Debo goes to him and says, tell Kyle to give me the ball, right? We see right before halftime, Debo come up, say something to Kyle. Kyle pat his butt. I think the first 3 passes of the second half of the NFC Championship all went to Debo. We know. And you and I said this to you a while ago, Jason. I said, you know, we all stand here and we say, well, I won't speak for Josh, but you and I say BA is our best receiver on the team. When you look at the definition of wide receiver, that's BA. But does Kyle think that? Does Kyle think that BA is the best receiver on this team? Does Kyle think? Because it doesn't necessarily matter what we think. It doesn't even really matter what anybody else in the organization thinks, except maybe Jed. You know, it really doesn't matter what anybody else does. Does Kyle? Because we've all accepted the fact it's BA or Debo. And honestly, the more the off seasons come along, especially by now, I just thought about this and I'm like, you know, we're 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks into camp, and he's not like even Debo, who is Mr. Demand, Trey Talk, and all that. Even Debo was signed by this point at camp. Is it simple? And we all know what he said. BA said in public. It's been very, hey, I love the Niners. I want to be here. You know, let's be real. He wasn't a Niner fan. His mom was a Niner fan. You know, my mom's a Niner fan. You know, all those things. But what is truly BA and Kyle's relationship? Because from what I've seen, I'm not going to say they hate each other, but it ain't buddy.
Well, I don't know if anybody ever really knows what's truly going on in Kyle's head. You know, I remember, you know, they used to say that Vince Lombardi, you know, would pump all the rookies up, just tell them how great they were that first season. Oh, you're so good. You're so great. You're the man, you know. And then that second season, tell them how terrible they were and how they're not going to make the roster and they need to step it up. And, you know, he was working them into the NFL. And then once they were in the NFL, then he started motivating them. So when I heard that Brandon Ayuk was in the doghouse, I thought, oh my goodness, Kyle's doing exactly what Vince Lombardi was doing. You know, it could be sort of a coaching tactic there. You know, it kind of makes you wonder. But I think, you know, to your point, that does have sort of real world implications, right? I mean, how is their relationship today? He's definitely saying all the right things. I kind of agree with you. I thought for sure that Ayuk would be signed at this point. Mm-hmm. You know, I understand that he requested a trade, blah, blah, blah. All of that is just posturing and negotiating and trying to gain leverage. And, It's just like, when our union is about to go on strike, right? We say, well, we're going to go on strike. We're going to do it. We're going. All right. And at the last possible second, you sign the deal because that's always the best deal you're going to get, right? And I thought that Brandon Ayuk was really on that same trajectory, until I start hearing things like framework in place, and I'm going, oh my goodness, like they're really serious about this, So that's really a tough call. And does Kyle and Brandon's relationship factor into it? I would say probably not. I still, being a purist here, I like to think that this is strictly business. Brandon has to do what's best for Brandon, and the 49ers have to do what's best for the 49ers. And if that means keeping him on the 49ers, they will keep him.
As this has gone on, my idea has always been he's going to play on the 5th-year option. They're going to tag and trade.
Yeah.
That's kind of been my idea because I feel like, and let's be real, you're only worth as much as the next person is willing to give you. I personally don't see, unless we're talking about Amari Cooper, which you can make an argument on, whether Amari Cooper would be a sufficient, it's just to me, and I try to remove things that have no effect on this regime, from past regimes and past regimes failures. But man, I've watched this team draft first round receiver after first. I mean, I've seen us draft AJ Jenkins. I've seen us draft, Dante Pettis. I've seen us draft so many receivers and swing and miss. I mean, I believe the last, besides BA, the last legit first round receiver you could say that was a legit receiver was what, Crabtree? Probably that you and we all know how that, that tender started and ended. So I mean, before that, you might legitimately have to go back to Jerry. Since first round wide receiver.
What round was JJ taken in?
First, but I never thought JJ lived up to the hype. Honestly, really, I like
no
JJ, but yeah, JJ was a first rounder.
It was like he wasn't great, but I mean he had some decent.
I don't think he was bad. I think what it was is he was drafted and he was billed as the replacement for Jerry, and that's unfair expectation based on anything.
Yeah, it's too much.
Nobody's going to come in to be number 80. Including number 80 when he first got here. But
sure.
So I look at BA and I see that touchdown the second half to open up the second half against Pittsburgh. And I see him, I just look at that and I'm like, that's everything that you would want in a receiver. We drafted him. We developed him. The emotionalness that we've gone through the last 2 years. I still see him with this hoodie up, in front of his locker after the on clean out day saying, BA, what do you want? And him saying, I want to be a champion. I don't personally think he's going to get that in Pittsburgh or Washington, which is, as all intents and purposes, is where he wants to go. So the way I ultimately stand on this is, BA, you really want to go? Fuck, Bug. I'll pack your bags for you, cuz I love you, BA. My girl got sad this morning because I had told her, yeah, it's starting to look more and more likely that BA is actually going to get traded. And she's like, so on the Niners on KMBR, Greg Papa and Tim Ryan have this, Ayuk is on fire. Yeah, and so my girl says, Ayuk isn't on fire anymore. I just got so sad when she said that because I was like, because she loves the little sayings that they have and how he goes CMC and Tim Ryan goes Dynamite, and she loves those little sayings and everything like that. And it just, I don't want BA to go. BA is everything you would want in a receiver. BA is a dog. I think one of the worst things that you can do for Brock Purdy's development as a quarterback, which he is still, believe it or not, the man still is developing, is take away a receiver that he clearly has otherworld, chemistry with. I mean, that's clear that he has extreme trust and chemistry in BA. But, I remember when Kyle basically came out and admitted when it came down with Defoe, it was either keep Defoe and get rid of Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward, and I believe it was one other player. So the Niners basically said no one player is worth losing 3 players. So, if you put a gun to my head and you're talking about losing Trent, you're losing CMC, we're getting in a franchise tag situation with Brock, which is, I think, one of the worst things that we can do. I start to understand some things. So I think it's up. The ball's in BA's court. He's not going to Pittsburgh. He's not going to go to. Matter of fact, I believe the Commanders have taken themselves out of the conversation for the BA sweepstakes. I mean, ultimately, BA, do you want to be a champion? Do you want to sit there? Fine, you'll get your 32 million or your 30 million or 28, whatever you're looking for, but you're going to watch your former teammates in the playoffs this year, possibly winning a Super Bowl. Do you want that? Do you truly want to be a champion? Because honestly, this is about the only play, because we're not trading them to the Chiefs. We're not trading them to the Bills. We're not trading them to a contender. So it's pretty much looking like it's the Browns and New England, and good luck dealing with whatever I've heard Drake May has not looked good in camp, and the one from Tennessee, the one you like, Jason, Milton. I've heard that actually Milton's looked like the better quarterback. So do you want to go
Santa Monica?
No, I was talking about Patriots.
Oh, okay.
Joe Milton, the one from Tennessee. I've heard that he looked better than Drake May in Patriots camp. But that's ultimately where I stand, is the ball's in BA's court. You want to be here and you want to win the championship, be in a fan base that loves you. We adore BA, right? I guarantee you the second BA shows up, I mean, it can't happen because tomorrow is the last day of open practice. But I guarantee you if BA would have came out the third day of camp in that red number 11 jersey, with this helmet, the crowd would have gone crazy. And it would be BA. We adore BA. BA is everything I want in a receiver. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've been big on BA, him coming out of the doghouse. I'm kind of torn with it at this point simply because I'm all for players getting their money, and I didn't mind some of the shenanigans that he was pulling. Kind of weird, especially with the whole, showing the Commanders playbook.
Yeah, that was really
the random tweets, tweeting at Mike Tomlin, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, a little weird, but I'm for it. Like I said, if I had a chance to make generational money kind of thing, I'd probably do some stupid, weird things too. But to me, at this point in camp, I mean, we've got our first preseason game here in a few days. It's to the point now to where it's like, okay, BA, you've kind of got what you've wanted. You have other teams that are willing to pay you that amount of money, but you're probably going to sit in purgatory for a few years, if not longer, depending on how those teams rebuild to get back. Or you could take $3 or $4 million less, depending on how what the contract is that we're offering you, and you can play for a Super Bowl and then maybe chase that money in a couple of years after that contract is done. So I think at this point, I'm still okay with him. I have no ill will or anything like that. But I would say come Monday, if you don't make a decision, then you go to the back of the line as far as I'm concerned when it comes to like wide receiver cores and all that kind of stuff. Because at that point, you're losing out. If you don't make a decision by Monday and teams are going into the second week of the preseason, you're losing out on so much time to build any sort of repertoire with whatever team, whether it's going to be here, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. And not only that for him personally, but for us, we need to figure out what we're going to do because we've got a ton of injuries right now with our wide receivers. We need to figure out, how we're going to rotate these guys through preseason games to make sure that we figure out, depending on who's going to be starting, if BA's here, if he's not here. So at this point, okay, you've gotten everything you've wanted. Time to put your big boy pants on and make a decision.
Yeah, I could never said it could have better. Okay, so Josh, before we let you go, just overall, especially considering, like, if you told me what's the bigger issue, BA not being signed or Trent not being signed, and I'm fully willing that Josh's theory is correct, and Trent just said, hey, fuck it, I ain't doing training camp again. Just like it's come out that Trent literally does not bend his knees in practice because he's gone to Kyle, like, look, I only got so many times – more times I can bend these knees. Do you want these knees bend in January? Or you want me to start bending them in August? Like, let's be real. So, I've watched the second team, third team offensive line all camp. I've never missed Trent Williams more in my life. I just,
Oh no.
It is not a good look.
Why are you missing him so much with second and third team? Just watch the first team.
I know, right? Poor Jalen Moore. Poor Jalen. And I'll say this. Nick Bosa beats this man literally every time. I think Nick Bosa could beat, as he should. As Nick Bosa should beat Jalen Moore every single rep with his eyes blindfolded. Great work for Jalen Moore. Nobody better he could go up against day in and day out than Nick Bosa. Love it. So I will give, like I said last year after week 1 with Colton McKivitz, how many people is he going to go against that are as good as TJ Watt, throughout the season? How many people is Jalen Moore going to go up against this season better than Nick Bosa? Not too many. But Jalen Moore ain't the one. With every rep that Jalen Moore loses, a few more thousand go into Trent's bank account, bro. I'm telling you. But with Trent not signed, I'm not worried about BA, especially worst case scenario, brother. You're on the 5th-year option, so we have you. Now you want to sit out, and we can go that route when if it gets to that point, and everything like that. But at this point, BA is on my back burner. My number one concern is when the hell is 71 getting back? That's my ultimate concern. So with all that being said, Josh, your overall thoughts of the 2024 Niners?
Oh, I think that's quite right. The most important position group in football has got to be the offensive line. You can't snap the football. You can't run the football. You can't pass the football. You can't do any of those things without the offensive line. It's a position that the 49ers have really struggled at, really under Kyle's entire tenure with the team. We've done some things to improve it here and there, but we haven't quite got that consistency we wanted across the entire line. So now with Trent Williams taking training camp off, as it were, it's a little bit concerning. But, at the end of the day, again, I just feel, listening carefully to the communication around that they're going to get that worked out. It's not going to be a problem. Trent's going to be good to go week 1. Brandon Ayuk is really interesting, too. Jason, you talked about other receivers that are up and down the roster. Don't forget why the 49ers brought Trent Taylor back into the team along with some of these other draft picks. The kickoffs are different this year. We have a new set of rules with the kickoffs. We need guys that can do that and excel in that phase of the game. And, of course, now that puts the 49ers in the position of deciding, okay, who do we keep and who do we part with based on those skills? It's looking like, maybe they're willing to keep one of those guys and see what they can get in a trade for Brandon Ayuk. So, obviously, that's the hugest X factor of this entire offseason. To answer your question, I like the 49ers, obviously. With or without Brandon Ayuk, I think they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender again this season. The core elements of their roster are still going to be there. Debo, Brock Purdy, Trent Williams on the defensive side of the ball, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. The core of the team is still in place. They have the head coaching genius of Kyle Shanahan, whether you believe he's a genius or not a genius. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Not for me to say. The point is, he does what it takes to get them there year in and year out. How they perform when they're there is a whole nother matter. I could talk all day about that.
Yeah,
but I see no reason the 49ers should have some huge drop-off. We haven't really talked about the schedule. The schedule is pretty tough on the Niners this year. Last year, I think it was an NFL record, like the 7th hardest schedule in terms of net rest. And this year, they set a new record. It's the third in NFL history, the third most difficult schedule in terms of net rest. It's insane. Every week we're somehow playing on a short week. Yeah, every week we're playing on a short week against teams that have had extra rest against us.
Literally,
that is a factor. That will be a factor. In the division, I like the rise of the Seattle Seahawks. I think they made an outstanding coaching hire. They've shored up their defense a little bit. They still got some problems at the quarterback position. Geno Smith has been injured in camp, and the backup, Sam Howell, apparently he's not looking great. They're saying it's Geno's job even when he comes back. So the Rams, who knows what we're going to get with the Rams? It's feast or famine for them year in and year out. They're either going to go 4-12 or they're going to win the Super Bowl. We don't really know which, The Cardinals, I like some of the things they did last season. Kyler Murray looked great when he returned, but I still don't know if they're quite ready to compete with the big boys yet, week in and week out. I'm not here to dog the Cardinals, but we'll see. So as far as the NFC West goes, I still like the San Francisco 49ers. As far as the NFC goes, I still like the 49ers. I do think they're a better team than Green Bay. I think that they're better than the Dallas Cowboys, although I think that's very closer than maybe some of us Niner fans would like to admit, for talking about this with our hearts, right? But the fact of the matter is that the Cowboys are there at the end of the year, every year, right along with the Niners, and eventually, one of these years, right, either the Cowboys or the Packers is going to win one of those games in January. So the Niners have to make the absolute most of these opportunities when they have them. And I think they will. I still like the 49ers to be Super Bowl contenders.
See, I think it could be as simple as, we've seen it. We get home field advantage under Kyle. We go to the Super Bowl. We don't. It eventually catches up to us. My only concern, if we just talk big picture 2024, is the factors that I had mentioned earlier: 20 games in 3 years, seventh toughest, third worst schedule when it comes to net rest, injury factors. Older football team, played a lot of football games.
This roster on average has played an extra year in career-wise just because of the postseason.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That is absolutely huge. And you're adding the extra game, which it's been a couple of years since that. But I as far as Super Bowl is concerned, I think Baltimore might be an issue. But historically, Baltimore has been an issue for the Niners, just historically. But I honestly, as funny as it was, I thought we caught the break getting the Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl. I thought Baltimore was going to be an issue. I thought getting the Chiefs on a down year what was going to be the benefit.
Absolutely. It should have been.
Anyway, I'm so tired of shoulda, coulda, woulda. I saw this little 8-year-old kid today. On my homegirl, Miss Veronica, had a friend, and her little 8-year-old son was at camp today and everything. And we were all talking and everything. And I remember looking at him, and I told him, I was like, because he's like, we were so close, and I want us to win. And I looked at him and I said, dude, I was your age the last time we won the Super Bowl. Look at my hair. Okay, y'all see how I'm starting to lose my hair? Like, I am a grown, almost 40-year-old man with a daughter about to be in high school. And I was your age when you want to talk about how bad anybody wants to win the Super Bowl, cuz. So, I
take this hat off and you can see how much hair is left back here.
Oh my God, brother! Like, it's man. If you would have told me at 8 years old that I'd be 38 and we still wouldn't have won another champion, I would not believe you. So, I'm with you, Josh. Ultimately, I don't really see a team threatening us in the AFC. Fine, if the NFC Championship game's in Detroit, Dan Campbell attaches his brain and realizes you kick a field goal on fourth down. I felt there was a little bit, I don't want to say luck, because luck makes it, that sounds so disrespectful. Like the fluke to Ayuk, as Jason likes to call it. That's not, that's luck. Well, that kind of disrespects the fact that Brandon Ayuk had to concentrate probably more than he's concentrated on anything in his life to make that.
That's right.
So I don't want to say it's luck. And for a while,
luck is in everything.
Yeah. For a while, I remember my coach used to tell us, "Hey, that ball is oblong shape. It does weird, funny things. You never know." I literally remember looking at Darrell Luter's leg, and I'm like, "Bruh, if your leg was like 2 inches skinnier." I'm with
that leg day once in a while.
Skip that leg day once in a while, brother. Skip the leg day. You're all good. So ultimately, The only thing that concerns me with this football team is health. Does the lack of rest days and the fact of, like Jason said, a whole extra year added to their career through playoff games and everything, does that catch a break? Are we too old? What was the old Bill Walsh saying? It's better to get rid of a player a year too early than a year too late. Do we find out on this that some of the players of these teams, like Trent, we all gush about him, best left tackle in football. The Super Bowl wasn't his greatest game. Now, is that just, hey, you're 36 years old and you just played a marathon of a season? Or is that Father Time starting to catch up to you a little bit? Kittle Corn. Everybody knows, man, I love me some Kittle Corn. One of the Niners I want to retire in red and gold the most is George Kittle. But the man, let's not pretend like he doesn't miss any games. And as much as I love him, I was really disappointed. I called him out a couple times on the TV. What happened to being back with the motherfucking vengeance, bruh? I called him out a couple times, in my semi-drunken state. So Josh, before we go, I know we didn't get a chance to talk. We'll go ahead and let you go off of this. Thoughts, Mr. Frank Gore, going into the Edward J. DeBartolo Sr. Niner Hall of Fame?
Well, Frank Gore is my favorite player of all time. I mean, I've got him,
brother.
Excellent. I absolutely love it. I've got him top 3 behind Barry Sanders and Walter Payton. I've seen him in person. I've seen him on TV. Just an incredible player for the 49ers. Totally speaking with my heart here, but I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's put up all the stats. You compare his stats to other people who are actually in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. He's actually above quite a few of them. So, despite what people like to invent on Twitter and whatnot, he's definitely got the numbers to go in. So going into the Team Hall of Fame, I think it's tremendous. It's a tremendous honor, and I await the day for him to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well.
Yeah, no. Probably my biggest regret as a faithful is not giving Frank Gore the ball. Like I've always said, I would have gave the ball to Frank 3 times and said, "Go get us a championship, Frank."
Yep.
I'm old enough to remember when Frank Gore was the Niners offense. That was literally, and this is the best way I think. If a little kid comes up to me and says, "Describe Frank Gore to me," and I said, probably most years probably wasn't the greatest back. You got LT, you got I believe he caught the end of Terrell Davis. You got some LT in there, obviously Marshawn, things about it. I said, but if you wanted Mr. Consistent, if football coaches will tell you, I just want a player that I know I'm going to get what I'm going to get from them. I can scheme around your weaknesses. I just need to know what I'm going to get from you play in, play out. And that was Frank Gore. Frank Gore was Mr. Consistent. Frank Gore was,
and consistently great. I mean, if you take, I want to say it's his top 10 seasons, those would have been good enough to lead the league, in any number of years, at different times. So there's years where there's up and down years for running backs. He was definitely good enough to lead the league. It's just in those seasons there happened to be somebody that had a few more yards than him. I don't think that is a negative on Frank Gore at all. I think it's a positive.
Well, it's like this. I mean, like, how many years did Jerry lead the league in receiving? If you actually look how many years Jerry led the league in receiving, I believe it's only like a handful.
Wow, no kidding.
He was a literal leader of the season, but he was more. It's like that would you rather be number 1 once or twice in your career, or would you rather be number 2 every year? Kind of situation.
Exactly.
The thing that frustrates me about the disrespect of Frank Gore is, I got him. I sent y'all the video, but first time ever, I actually watched a live introduction of the Hall of Fame. Patrick Willis, Ronnie Lott, BY, and Patrick Willis are my top 3 all-time favorite defensive Niners, like bar none. Nobody loved Patrick Willis more than me. I didn't personally think he was going to get in. I didn't think he played long enough. And that's kind of always the thing you hear about Patrick is, hey, he didn't play enough. But when you got running back, the man who literally gets hit on every play, and everybody says, yeah, well, he got 16,000 yards because he played 16 years. So you want to hold the fact that Patrick Willis only played 7 seasons against him, but then hold the fact that nobody has more. I mean, not Walter Payton, not Jim Brown. I mean, nobody has more games played in NFL than Mr. Frank Gore, the man who had 2 ACLs coming out of Miami. I remember that Miami team, Jeremy Shockey, Clinton Portis. I'm a Gators fan. So, I remember those Miami teams and everything like that. I just wanted to get your thoughts, Josh. Obviously, I know you're around Jason and I's age, so I knew number 21. Now, people are kind of wishy-washy. There's one last question, and then we'll go ahead and let you go. Do they put number 21 in the rafters?
Absolutely.
It has to be the last. I feel the last jersey that you should retire, and this is the only reason, is that Frank Gore has never kept a secret that she's Denise DeBarlow's favorite player is Frank. He said him and Jed are like brothers. Jed, I know everybody talks about how we retired too many numbers, and you just kind of, I remember the day that they were going to give Brandon Jacobs number 21, and literally the Empire rioted it. Like, there were people calling for this man's job. Like, you don't give away number 21. To me, that's only – I looked at my girl, and she was kind of asking me why he's so beloved and everything like that. I was like, the man's Twitter profile picture while he was on the Jets was him in a Niner uniform. That's all you need to say about Frank Gore right there. Like, his loyalty to the Niners. I think one of the most malnutrition things that Trent Baalke did was not allow him to compete with Carlos Hyde. He would have mopped the floor with Carlos. But anyway, that's a different subject. Thanks so much, Josh. Really appreciate you coming on today, brother.
Before you go, Josh, plug your stuff, brother.
Yeah, I was just
thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. One last stat, my favorite stat about Frank Gore. You mentioned the 16,000 yards. He played 16 years, 16,000 yards. That's a perfect 1,000-yard per season average. What more do you need? And for anybody who thinks he played too long, look at his yards per carry and then go compare those yards per carry against other running backs in the Hall of Fame. Mic drop right there. You can find me on Threads at Josh Breakdowns, or right here on YouTube. Just search Josh's Breakdowns. And always happy to have more people checking out what we have to offer. So thanks again for having me on, you guys. I really appreciate it.
And of course, just so everybody knows, he has amazing breakdowns. As well as one of the first things I look for as soon as I go up. Like,
yeah. Same here, brother. Look forward to meeting you in October, bro.
Yes, sounds good.
Yeah. All right. We thank Josh for coming on today and everything like that. Please go check out Josh. He's doing amazing content. His breakdowns are pretty much gospel for me.
We'll put links in the description of the video.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and Oh, what's up, Kenny? I didn't even see you there, bro. I've been so lost in my world, chopping it up with Josh over Frank Gore, and man, I finally found.
I've been trying to talk to everybody in chat.
Yeah, I've just been happy to talk to somebody who gushes as much about number 21 as I do. No, honestly, I don't want to end the show without giving a big shout out to Mr. Patrick Willis. I mean, I don't know if you saw my post on Jason. I said, Patrick, you're where you belong. Roger should be there too. Like, we always got to include that in everything. Yep. Roger Page should be in the Hall of Fame, which is one of the reasons that kind of scares me about Frank Gore, honestly.
If Roger doesn't get in, what?
Yeah, Roger doesn't get in. But don't want to not take away from what was a special day to see number 52. My first training camp practice was his rookie year. And I'll never forget sitting there with my foster brothers. And I mean, I'm memorized, bro. This is my first time at the Niner, practice facility. I'm like, holy, I'm at practice. I'm going bananas. And all of a sudden I hear this, fa, 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 fa. And I'm like, what the hell is that noise? It was Patrick Willis hitting the dummy. And I'll never remember, who the hell is that 52? And I remember looking at the roster and being like, oh, that's our new rookie, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then I remember his first game against the Cardinals getting 20 tackles. And I had never seen anything like that. Like,
he was a machine from the get.
The image that just always stays in my head about Patrick Willis is him with the club. When you have the the tape after he got surgery and everything, and hitting a man so hard, he literally, I never seen a man throw up on the field and literally crawl off the field. I mean, nothing better than seeing number 52 in the Hall of Fame. Jason, final thoughts before we get up out of here today?
Yeah, it was definitely good to see him get to the Hall of Fame. Even I think his bust is one of the worst of all time.
Oh my God, man! Why they had to do that man so dirty?
Why, to me, that bust looks more like Michael Vick than it does Patrick Willis.
Fuck, bro, you almost made me spit water all over the computer. Hey, tell me why hell it does look like. I didn't think about that, but now that you say it,
it looks like Vic.
Michael Vick. Hell it does, man.
Yeah, it's been a crazy. Like the last 24 hours here in the Empire, it's just been nuts. We'll see what happens. I mean, we'll be live obviously again on Friday, and we'll, I don't know if, we can hold out much more with getting an answer as to what the hell is going on with BA. But hopefully something soon. But hey, at least come Friday, we get to talk at least about the preseason game with the Titans. Obviously,
yeah.
There's not a whole lot to talk about. We're not going to really play our starters. They're not going to play theirs. But it's going to be good to see some of the younger guys.
I'm fired up to see some. I'm fired up to see some Trent Taylor. I'm fired up to see some Jalen Graham. I'm fired up to see Mustafa. I want to see. I'm fired up to see some of these second players as we go and we transition. We've all said 2024, the last ride and everything like that. Our sustainability is going to, whether we just roll right into 25 and no drop off. I think a lot of that does have to do with what happens with this year's draft. And so that starts Saturday, bro. I know I probably say this every year, but I don't think I've been more fired up to watch a preseason game, bro. I've never been more fired up to watch a game that majority of our backups are going to be playing than this year. I think there's going to be some players that catch our eye on Saturday.
Yep.
All right, brother. We'll catch you Friday.
Friday, 6 p.m. Be there or be square.
Yee. All right, y'all. We appreciate everybody tuning in today. I know that we're probably.
I'm finishing my thing. Bye, Fatai Telenava. One love, everybody.
My bad. I was fired. Fired from my own show. All right, y'all. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We will see everybody Friday, like Jason said, Friday, 6 p.m. here on the West Coast. We're going to go ahead and get into some Niners Titans preview. It's game week, baby. We finally here. Woo! I'm so fired up, bro. I'm so fired up. Hopefully we will. I know Jamie probably won't be going live today. We'll go ahead and figure that. But if something happens with BA, Jason, I, or Jamie, of course, will come on and give y'all all the information we know. See y'all Friday. Till then, faith, love, and happiness. Go Niners.
Rice has just set a Super Bowl record with 12 catches. He's in motion. Montana. Touchdown, John Taylor.
Niner Faithful Radio, the show hosted one faithful, 5 6, brought to you by Power
See ya.